Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the podcast again. Thank you so much for returning. It's episode 2 now, isn't it?
Episode 2, yes. Who thought we'd last this long?
I know. It's been a good run, but episode 2 is where we'll stop. But yes, thank you so much for coming back. I'm happy to get this recorded again and jump straight in, I guess, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, first of all, to everybody. We got a lot more views, likes, and especially a lot more comments than we were expecting. Loads of positive comments from the first one. So thank you to everybody who took the time to do that. And if you could do the same again, that would be great. So whatever format you're listening to us on or watching, please do please subscribe, and please do drop us a comment. As far as we're concerned, Warhammer, the best thing about the hobby is the community.
Yeah,
we want to build one on here. So the more you engage with us, the more we'll engage with you.
Definitely. Absolutely, definitely. Right, well, I guess we'll move straight into the news, right? What the latest stuff that's going on?
Yeah, so quite a bit of news again, and there was an announcement that sent shockwaves through certain segments of the community this week, which was the
firstborn.
Yeah, in some,
getting removed.
Has GW killed off firstborn?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
it's the short answer. Welcome to the news. All over. All nice and done.
Well, yes. It's true. They have definitely decided to move away from firstborn, and they have killing them softly is probably how I would put it. They're doing it. They wouldn't come out and say you can't use these models anymore or this range is dead. No, but that is essentially what they have done.
It's like it was going to happen eventually, right? They were going to come. They were been around for a while, but it was going to happen. I just dislike how they've actually done it, because the index came out, so everyone was like, oh, they're around, they're staying, this is great, because scout snipers, they were pretty good in 10th edition. Yes. So everyone went out, and I see also a couple of videos of people going out to buy the scout snipers.
Absolutely.
They built them all, painted them all, and now they're getting this news that they're going to then get kind of retired, and it's like, it kind of sucked that they dragged the people on, whereas they could have just said from the get-go, hey, these are here, but they're going to be going soon.
So this is a very emotive topic. So there's been a lot of salt online about this. I saw one guy on Twitter who compared Games Workshop pushing Primaris on people as equivalent to forcing a paedophile on children,
no.
Which is a bit extreme.
Some comparison there, isn't it?
I mean, we do need. Maybe it's a little bit more context and perspective than that, but it is very emotive, because people have been, this is a 40-year-old hobby now. People have been, or 35 years for 40k, and people have been collecting Marines for over 3 decades in some cases.
Yeah.
So to be told, to feel like the army that you've invested in and loved and developed for so long is no longer relevant to the game is a wrench.
It sucks, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, but it has been coming. This has been the plan since Primaris. Primaris, it didn't exactly save GW, but it went a long way to getting GW to where it is today. Mm-hmm. So when they launched Primaris or announced it in 2017, there was a huge backlash, and a lot of people said, I'm not going to play, I'm going to stop buying your models, etc., etc. And that there was the idea of that protest was to kind of force GW to reverse that decision.
Yeah.
What actually happened in the next 3 years after the launch of Primaris is GW's share price increased 5-fold. Yeah. So it worked.
For the amount of people that left, probably triple, if not more, people joined.
So they took a calculated decision to say, you old farts, some of you might stop playing, but a lot more young blood is going to come into the hobby, and that's what's going to think and that's exactly 100%. What happened.
And at the end of the day, it is going to happen. There is going to be models that do just get retired eventually, and I mean, it sucks because I think Space Marine have such a massive collection. They will suffer the most when it comes to getting rid of old models.
Well, as you hit the nail on the head before, they've kind of adopted this hybrid approach where they've been phasing them out slowly but surely. Like we've got the new Terminators and the Leviathan box, etc. But what that has meant is they've had to have both sets in a codex or an index. So the index cards for the Space Marines, they're like about 3 times more cards than there is for anybody else.
How thick they are? They're massive, and they actually charge more for the Space Marine ones.
Too right?
But absolutely right. Because I've literally just ordered my Necron ones. They haven't came yet. But looking at the ones online, I think mine's like this thick, and then the Space Marine ones that my friend has is like, it's just massive.
I was trying to explain it to my son, and it's like, because I was playing with a at my local club on Friday with a young lad who brought the Necron index cards. It's the first time I'd seen them, and I was saying to my son, it's a bit like, see, my son plays Space Marines. I say the index cards Necrons, it's like if you hit you in the face with them, it'd be like a mild slap. Whereas if I hit you in the face with the Space Marine ones, you'd knock yourself out. I'd knock you out.
Yeah, it's a brick, basically.
So there's from an admin and a logistics point of view, from a company's perspective, it's a headache for them.
Of
course. I can see why they're doing it. From equally, from a player and a collector's perspective, you can see why this is such a deeply emotional issue, and it's not going to be an easy transition.
Exactly. I mean, I absolutely loved the Land Raider? No, not the Land Raider.
Land Speeder.
The Land Speeder.
Yes, it's a great model.
I love the model. I remember that was literally one of my first models when I was first collecting it back in the day. So it does hurt as a collector. I love these old antique models, but in a way, it's quite nice because since I prefer to collect certain units, I see this as a positive for me because they're going away, but that to me makes them more collectible to keep. And I'm like, oh, I've got this cool old model, like no one else, well, not everyone else has it, but like it's quite hard to get now because they're not selling it, but I've still kind of got it. And behind you, I've got some Necron Wraiths, the old skinny models from Dawn of War.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 blister packs of those because, again, I look at them. I like to collect them. I don't think I'll paint them or build them because I like the blister packs.
They're staying in the packs.
Yeah, just because I like collecting them. So I think for me, again, I guess it might be a bit biased because I'm not directly impacted by those Land Speeders because I don't have them. But people who do have them and want to use them, I guess that would suck for them. So I think there's 2 sides of the coin on this one.
They're still in the index, and the crunch point is going to be, will they be in the Space Marine Codex still? And I think they probably will be, but I would caveat that in that I think models as iconic as a Land Speeder that are being retired is because they are on firstborn scale, and everything is moving to Primaris scale.
Yes.
Would it be... it wouldn't exactly be the wildest prediction in the world to predict that a new Primaris size or scale Land Speeder is going to appear soon. And so
maybe,
maybe.
But again, more stuff to collect.
It is, yeah.
But
so, I think that is how they will handle it. I think some of these units will return, but they will return in Primaris scale, basically.
Definitely.
Good.
Nice.
We've all been blessed with a 40k app at last that works, which is really good.
That's very true. How are you finding the app?
I'm really enjoying it. I am really enjoying it. What I enjoyed less was their announcement that they're going to start charging us for it.
Well, that's been going for a while though. They've always said that it will become chargeable as time goes on. I
just hope that they might. I know it's GW, but I hope that they might give us something for free. I know the rules are online for free.
We'll take anything for free, really, won't we?
I think I got really quite attached to Battlescribe. It works really well.
It does.
I'm a big fan of community projects like that. I'm not so much a big fan of the guy who owns it, who doesn't really support the community that actually keeps that app going. But the fact that there's scores or even hundreds of people out there that are helping to contribute and keep that running, and it worked a treat. So if GW are going to start charging for the Battleforge aspect of that app, I might just go back to Battlescribe.
Because Battlescribe, back when it was obviously back in 9th, it did work and it worked well. We were used to it, we knew how it worked. I guess at that point, though, we weren't used to something else, because the app for the GW one, it was out, but it wasn't really good and it wasn't updated all the time.
It was rubbish.
Yeah.
It was unusable.
It was. Because, again, everything was out of date. You couldn't attach certain units to certain things, which caused issues when people were creating armies. So it just was a bit of a mess. So, but I think the main one for this one, I think I will buy the app, but not straight away. I think I'm going to wait to see how they update it as time goes on, because I think that's what kind of threw a lot of people away from the last one. When it first came out, it was like, oh, cool, this new army builder. It's got all the nice pictures, make it nice and easy to read. But if they don't update it in a timely manner with the indexes and all the changes, well, that's going to be useless. So I'm going to wait until it's actually fully out and fully up and running before I probably commit to buying it myself.
I think that's a sensible decision. I have no great interest in the Warhammer Plus app in general. So it would feel expensive to me to buy this for an army builder.
It's true, because it's what, like £7, is it?
I think they've announced they're increasing it by a quid or two.
Really?
To,
right,
yeah.
okay.
So
my opinion might change now.
Yeah.
Then.
But I agree with what you're saying there. And I've taken a similar stance with the index cards because I'm convinced that there was a few that obviously there's some errata where they've just got things slightly wrong.
Yes.
And they've already, from a Necron, we're both Necron players, so from our perspective, there's been a couple of errata announced the other week.
Yes.
So technically the index cards are already out of date, or some of them are. Yeah. So I'm waiting to buy the index cards until they've actually got it together.
For sure. And I think I've bought them just because I like when I was playing the GT the other week, that was just fun to see people having the cards, and it just made it a lot easier to kind of cycle through, whereas on the app, although the app's really good, I was still taking a bit of time, and I felt bad like having to go through my army, or if someone was like questioning one of my rules, I felt like I had to show them the app and then get to the certain part, whereas the index card, like, here's the index card, I'm going to crack on and move my guys, you read what you're questioning, kind of.
I also saw one player ruin some of his index cards when a pint of water went all over them. But I'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah. Fun times.
Yeah. The last piece of news would be the new filters.
Oh yes.
So you jumped straight on this, actually.
I did. Yeah. I thought I'd just try it out. I don't normally put like videos of myself on. Like in my Instagram, which is mainly just for like my crappy painting that I try to do. But I was like, it's there. I was like, it looks fun. And I was like, I've got the software. I'll just quickly try and make a little funny video, and it came out all right. I'll take it.
It did, made me chuckle. So we'll put a link in the video description.
Yes.
You can go and check it out on Jack's Instagram. But it was quite funny.
It was pretty good. But
that's it was nice. Nice bit of community engagement from GW. I thought.
Definitely. I think the next thing, after we went to the tournament that we spoke about last week, right?
Yes. So the Northeast Open, about 90 players.
90 tables, right?
Yes.
So
was it?
It was 90 tables, wasn't it? So
no, I think it was
90 players. Yeah, it was 90 players. Yes, because like 40 tables.
Yes.
That math checks out on that one. But yes, how'd you find it?
It was great. I really enjoyed it. Second GT that either of us have done, really well run events.
Oh, that's great.
But let's get into it. Tell us about your experiences. So how did you get on to start with?
It went really good. I think I got 5 games, 1, 2, drew 1, which is pretty rare in Warhammer.
Yeah, it is.
And then lost 2. So I was really happy with that. And the 2 that I lost, one of them I only lost by 1 point against a really good player as well, who's part of a team up in Scotland. And the other one was against Grey Knights. My God, they were very fun to play, but the reason why I lost was because I was just monkey braining it, where I was just like, right, I need to go kill that guy.
Yeah,
that guy is over there. He needs to go die. So I'd move towards him, and he'd just go away. I was just teleport away. I'm like, no. I'm now off the objective, and I literally can't get to you or charge you. And then another point where I was like, right, I need to get into the middle and basically secure the middle for area denial. I was like, I'll take out those little small blob of whatever they had, Terminators or whatever. So I moved up to maybe a 5-inch charge to basically make it super easy.
Yeah,
he teleports away. But since I was 5 inches away, I wasn't wholly within the 6 inches, so and I couldn't get area denial. And he had sticky objectives, so he kept that on his turn. So on my turn, I didn't get that one. He still got his 5 points for that. And I was just like, well, that's like a -5.
Yeah.
A -10.
Yeah, it's a 10-point swing. Yeah.
So I was like, very well played. Yeah. I was like, that's exactly what you need to do.
I played Grey Knights in one game as well. It was one of the ones that I won.
Against Daniel, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
He was a very fun player.
Yes. And the movement shenanigans are incredible. So I didn't screen well enough because they can come in within 3.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, so for things like capture, I think, again, it was a 10-point swing because I had defend stronghold, so I've got to defend my deployments on objective, and he has capture enemy outpost.
Yes.
So guess what?
Yeah.
Drop a unit in within 3, so I'm screening for 9. I mean, he had told me that they could do this, but it's like muscle memory. You're so used to screening for 9 inches that you don't do it. You don't leave a gap.
You're just like, you're instantly like, all right, cool, 9 inches, right? 9 inches, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And you don't think twice of it.
Yeah.
What about the rest of your games, though? How are yours?
Really good. So won the first game against Space Marines. Typical sort of meta list, like a couple of those gladiator tanks. The Desolation Marines, my favourites.
Everyone's favourite.
So our list differed slightly. So I only own 15 built Lich Guard, and I've got
that's
5 still in the box because I'm lazy. So I could only, in my list, I could only take what I've got.
Yeah.
So I took 1 blob of 10 Lich Guard with the Crypto Thralls and the Technomancer and the
Meta
Overlord, the Meta loadout.
I'm joking.
Very, very hard to kill.
Very hard to kill. Everyone was very complaining.
Yes. The other blob I took was the Warrior blob, and
Yes.
I tried to toughen it up with the same loadout,
Yeah.
and they just don't hold up the same way as Lich Guard do.
Yeah.
So even though there's only 10 models in the Lich Guard squad and 20 in a Warrior blob, the Warriors went down in one turn to Oath of Moment and Desolation Marines, basically.
No, I think the slight difference with my list compared to yours, as you were saying there, is I had 2 squads of Lich Guard and everyone hated it. Everyone hated it. But, I absolutely love Lich Guard. I've owned them for like 3 editions now.
Yes.
And I don't think I've played them for 3 editions.
Yeah.
Because they just weren't fun to play. They were just these two and not even a blob. It's an elite unit which didn't do anything. The damage, because in 9th it was like, the lethality kicked up, it ramped up as time went on, and we suffered from codex creep because we were one of the first ones. So Lich Guard just got left in the dust, and you were forced to either take blobs, or again more lethality to it. But in 10th, I thoroughly enjoy the Lich Guard because although you might not be able to kill them, they don't pose a big threat to kill you. So, like, my Lich Guard that were, like, I charged them a bunch of Terminators. It took me, like, 3 turns to kill them.
Yes.
Now, the issue that the players have got is they're not going to kill mine. They're not going to get through all those wounds and all those Crypto Thralls with those
feel no pains,
feel no pains. But they're not going to also secure the objective. So, although, yes, they might be annoying to face, but Grey Knights done perfectly against it. Because Grey Knights were just teleporting away from them, and then they were doing all the secondary objectives and capping all the primaries. That's kind of the tricks to get around the Lich Guard. Avoid them, basically.
Yes.
But yeah, apart from that, I brought 10 Death Marks. I love the models. I love the lore behind them. So I was like, they're not going to do pretty well, and they really didn't do anything the entire tournament. But I thoroughly enjoyed them. I thought they were really fun models to play.
So I brought 10 Death Marks as well, and 2 units of 5, and they, in the Space Marine game, they actually came in clutch because
really?
He popped his Desolation Marines out onto the top of the building and wiped out so he could get more shots onto my Warrior blob, which he killed.
Yeah.
So I then just deep struck in my 2 units of Death Marks and shot them and pretty much took them out.
Nice.
And that removed the threat. So they
that's
in that
a good
game,
show. I didn't have the opportunity to do that.
In that game, they really helped swing it for me because without that, I wouldn't have had the firepower to deal with those guys. Yeah. And then the rest of the games, they're just there for there's action monkeys, score points, really.
Yeah.
Investigate signals, gauge on all fronts. You just drop them in out to deep strike and away.
Exactly. Now, I thought I was going to have a really fun time when I was versing the Grey Knights.
Yes.
So I was like, they're going to deep strike. They're going to deep strike loads. I was like, I'm going to put my Death Marks in the center of my army and be like, right, well, if they come in within 18 inches, then I'm going to shoot at them.
Yes.
I kept telling the blokes. I didn't want to be like, got you kind of moment.
Yeah.
So every time he was about to deep strike, I was like, I was like, FYI, I was like, my Death Marks are there. So maybe I shouldn't have said that. But at the same time,
I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, at the same time, I was like, he's probably forgot.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's FYI, they're going to shoot at you. If you come in there, I'm going to shoot at you.
Yeah.
So it's like, actually, I'm going to move them 5 inches away. But the reason why I was saying that for as well, though, is because although I was letting him get away with one of my abilities, I was still like, well, I kind of still want this blob safe. So him moving away benefits him, but also still benefits me as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So although he's going to charge a different unit, at least the unit that I want is still kind of safe.
Yes.
So
yeah,
it was like a win-win, really.
An extra level of protection, don't
Yeah, and to be fair, I did tell him that as well. I wasn't just like, if you deep strike it, I'm going to get you, to try and like make him go away. I was like, I want you to go away. I don't want you here. So I am going to shoot at you, but you can go there if you want. So it was kind of win-win for both, really. But apart from that, the flayed ones, loved them. Do you have any in your list?
I didn't take any flayed ones to the tournament. No. So explain to us why they did so well for you.
Just literally, I must have caught lucky on some of my objectives, but when you're deploying, they can move up. So they've got like them forward.
So they've got infiltrators. They can forward deploy.
Yeah. So squad of 5, they're really small, and they're still really small models. So you literally just obviously, we played bottom floor you couldn't see through, but obviously top floor you could with the windows. So literally bottom floor on an objective in the middle. They were there. They couldn't. They in order to get around to see them and shoot at them, they were then going to basically open the door and put them in the open for my Doomsday Ark and my Locust Heavy Destroyers.
Right.
So like the way I positioned was I had my Locust Destroyers back here, which he knew were there, and obviously my flayed ones were tucked in a little corner.
Yes.
If they came out to shoot at those ones off the objective, well, my Locust Destroyers are just there to pepper them next turn.
So you use your flayed ones as bait.
Pretty much. But at the same time, if they don't take care of the flayed ones, they hit. And they don't hit hard, but they hit a lot. It's like 4 attacks each.
Right.
They have sustain hits 1.
Right.
So 6s, you get an extra attack.
Yeah.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
And if that unit is below half strength, below half strength, all them successful hits are now critical. So they are then all 6s. So all it's like 3 up. I think it's like 4 ups or 3 ups. But all them hits are then double.
Wow.
Basically, so 4 attacks each, squad of 5, 15? No, 20 attacks?
So say I've got a unit of 10 Marines, you shoot it down to 5?
5, or 4 below strength.
And then you are getting, you're hitting on 3s.
4, 8, 12, 16, 20, so 20 attacks.
But you're hitting on 3s and everything explodes.
Everything explodes. And then also the twin linked, so you're
re-rolling wounds. Goodness me.
Now, I took out a Night Arbiter because he was below half strength. I only had 5 of them, and I was like, whatever. I was like, I'll charge in. I was like, if it, I keep on the objective. I still contest it. I'm a bit of a pain. I'll charge in, kills him.
Goodness me.
Because again, I was wounding on 6s, but because of the quantity that I got through, and then the quantity of the rerolls that I had, I just fished for 6s and I got them.
And you just made him make so many saves that he failed enough to die. That's really good.
And I felt really bad because every single turn he had indirect fire and some missile pods that he had on the back of his knights.
Right.
They all kept missing. And then the ones that did hit, I was instantly just reviving them next turn. And I was like, I'm at the back. And I felt so bad because he was like, all right, cool, 2 of them dead, right. And then in my head I was like, well, I'm just going to bring them back. And I felt bad because I was like, but in my head I was like, well, it's smart for him to attack them because they couldn't see anything else. So I was just like, well.
I do wonder about that from an opponent's perspective. Like, it's not like a gotcha exactly, but it is a bit of a feels bad. Like, it's quite demoralising when you spend the entire shooting phase chipping stuff away, and then it just all comes back again.
I love it. I love it. I don't care. And the reason why I love it for is because Custodies, they've got per turn or per fight phase, they can pick what they want to do. They can either do like -1 to wound or +/-1 to attack.
Yes.
I like the flexibility that they have to do stuff. Space Marines, they've got the Oath for Moment.
Yes,
really good.
Powerful,
and they've also got their other abilities that they can do, like once per what's the thing
got
called?
their doctrines.
They've got doctrines. Necrons don't have anything. Necrons only have a -1, a +1 to hit when you're being led by a unit. That's boring.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it. So if that's all I've got, well, I'm going to build my list to what I've got. And all I've got is the reanimation.
All we have is the Chumbawamba protocol, which is I get knocked down and get up again.
If people sit there and be like, oh no, Necrons just keep coming back, well, yeah, that's what we've got. That's our army room. Just like what Death. It's hard to say that the Death Guard. I know they're a bit trash in the minute, but they used to be really disgusting resilient.
Yes.
When Army of Contempt was around.
Yes.
It was so tough to get through. They still didn't perform very well. But again, that's what they had. So like, you can't say, oh man, it sucks that you're just going to keep coming back. It's like, well, yeah, it's my list.
That's what it does. That's what my army
literally
does.
what my army rule is.
What about clutch moments? What sort of did you have any big game moments in there?
I mean, it wasn't so much of a big game moment because I was still winning, but I guess I was winning by like maybe 5 to maybe 6 points. But the funnest moment that I had, that was a bit of a clutch moment, was he had it was a Grey Knights player. It was actually against Daniel, the same player that we played.
Daniel, if there's any chance you're watching this, we both played you and we thought you were mint. So thank you very much.
I think we both voted for him for sportsmanship of the award.
Absolutely,
yeah,
yes.
He was very fun to play against. But so he deep striked his Terminator as he could. It was the Terminator Librarian, I think it was.
Yes.
Teleported him like really close to my death marks, and I was sitting there and I was like, I could attack you, mate. And he goes, oh, I know, but I need to get onto the objective. I was like, okay. I was like, right. I was like, the Overwatch. It's my last 2 CP or something like that. And I was like, probably not hit on 6s, probably not, but I'll try and take a few wounds off you. So I rolled like obviously 10 dice, got 1 through, and I wounded him for 2 damage. So put down like 3 or like 5 or something like that. I put him down to 3, and then he does his psychic attack.
Oh, I know what's
psychic
coming
ability.
here. Yes,
and it was a 2-up. easy save, right? You know, what's the chances?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And he's sitting there and he's laughing. He's just like, he's sitting there rolling these dice, and I could see him. I could see the cogs where, and he's thinking. He's like, do I risk it? I can see him like doing the math. He's like, well, that's only like 1 in 6 chance. You know, it's gonna work. I'll be fine. Not gonna be much of an issue. Rolls a dice. It's a 1, and I'm just like, oh no. And I'm looking. I'm like, you've got an ECP, and
So he couldn't re-roll it.
Couldn't re-roll it. I don't know if he could, but he had no CP to roll it.
3 mortal wounds to himself.
It was D3 mortal
Was it
wounds.
D3?
D3, D6 mortal wounds.
Oh, right.
I think it's D6 mortal wounds, but regardless, he's sitting there, and again, he's thinking the dice, and I can see him, and I'm sitting there giggling, like, oh no. Like, it's quite funny, because like, in a tournament, obviously, people are there to win, obviously, but they're also there to have fun.
Yes.
So I was sitting there laughing, like, man, I'm like, it's typical, isn't it? Like, this sucks for you. Like, you've literally just rolled the 1 out of 6, and you've got it. Now you're going to roll the damage. And he's like, and I was sitting there laughing, like, oh, I'm glad Overwatch, because this could turn it. And he rolls and gets a 6 on the dice.
Ooh.
So it's like all mortal wounds, kills these.
Goodbye,
kills his model.
librarian, yeah.
It goes away. Good thing is, I had assassination, so pocket those extra 5 points. I know he also couldn't get onto the objective, so that was mine. So it was really fun for me.
While we're talking about games with Daniel, as I mentioned in the first episode, my Nightbringer has a long history of not turning up.
You smashed a table because of it, right?
Well, yeah, we'll come to that in a second. But there was 2 games where my opponents at the tournament had to roll 3 consecutive 6s to one-shot the Nightbringer.
Right.
It happened in game 2 against a Scottish lad called Mark Eldari player.
Yes.
A good player.
Yeah, I played his friend, actually, Jack.
Yes, that's
really
right. And then Daniel did it with his librarian. Because they can do this mortal wound bomb.
Yes.
So you had to roll a 6 to be. If you rolled a 6, it's 2d6 mortal wounds, and then rolled double 6
right
on the mortal wounds, and just took the Nightbringer out in one shot.
You and your Nightbringer, man. Honestly.
Yeah. So
you get that guy retired. I'm telling you.
Yes. I mean, we've both invested in a Transcendent Catan, because that is the meta choice at the moment.
I think we left that tournament. We were like, no, we need one of these.
Yeah,
we need one of these in our list.
He's so much. The Transcendent Catan is just leagues ahead of any other Catan at the moment.
Because they've definitely missed off removing those enhancements, right? Because I don't know if anyone knows, but for the Transcendent Catan for Necrons, you can, for whatever reason, he's a character, right?
Yes.
But all the other Catans, like the Nightbringer, the Void Dragon, you and the Deceiver, you can't put attachments on this character because they're epic heroes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But this Transcendent Catan, he's not an epic hero, so that means you can technically bring more than 1. Can technically bring 3, right?
Yes.
And since he's not an epic hero, you can also attach
give him enhancements.
That's the one. And what the enhancement that everyone's obviously taken is the 4-up Feel No Pain.
Sempiternal Weave, yes.
That's what it's called. Now, that's incredible because he has 11 toughness. Straight away, that's like, what the hell is that? So 11 toughness, incredible. 12 wounds, halves all incoming damage,
Nice.
4-up invuln save, and then a 4-up Feel No Pain.
You see, again, that's just depressing for your opponent, because you've got 50-50 on the invuln, and then 50-50 Feel No Pain as well.
Exactly.
It's very, very tanky.
And before the data slate that just came out, he didn't have the keyword for reanimate. So everyone thought that was an oversight, because all other Necron units have that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this data slate, we thought, they're going to make him an epic hero, so that you can't obviously bring the attachment, and you can't the enhancement, sorry, and then you can only bring 1 of them, X, Y, Z. But no, they just attached that. So the animation.
This is the key here. Is they looked at the at it for the errata.
Yes.
And they gave him reanimation protocol, so he can get wounds back in your command phase.
A big buff.
Yes, but they chose still not to make him an epic hero,
which is funny. Now I'm not going to spend £315 on 3 of those models.
No.
Because the bigger scale model, which is the obelisk, that can go in the fucking bin.
So this is the issue for those that don't know. So the reason the models are so expensive is because the only way you can officially buy the Transcendent Catan is with the obelisk, which is like it's bigger than the monolith, I think, isn't it? It's a massive model.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely massive.
Yeah.
I think it's like double, maybe triple the size of the monolith. It's a big model, man. But it sucks. It's not very good. It's anti-fly, but no one takes fly anymore because they've ruined fly in 10th.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the point of bringing it? So the only reason why you ever going to bring it for was to put it in the trash so that you can get your Transcendent Catan out on the field and playing with it. But
Obviously, we did source ours legally, and we absolutely definitely didn't get one of our friends to 3D print for us.
No, not at all. We're not that kind of people.
No.
Now, unless they want GW want to send us an obelisk to review, we might change our opinion. Who knows? But
after we've just called it trash,
I'm swayed by money, Dan.
So, any more clutch moments for you?
Apart from that, no, not so much clutch moments because I mean, to be fair, like I said, but the 2 games that I lost by 1 point against Spitfire.
Yeah, that's really good.
I was really happy because again, he's a guy from Scotland, part of a team. Now he was downplaying himself. He was like, "Oh, I'm like one of the not like he wasn't saying he was the lowest member, but he was like, oh, I'm like newish to the team, and he wasn't very good. He was a very good player.
Yeah,
I was like, he was doing really good stuff, and he was like, it's quite funny actually because he started doing stuff and moving his models, and I was like, I never questioned him, but I was just like, oh, I wasn't like, why are you doing that? I was like, oh, how are you doing that? Because I wanted to learn what he was doing.
Right.
And it was quite funny because the first time he was like, oh yeah, no, I'm just doing this because you can move through models X, Y, Z. It's perfect. I was like, good to know, thank you so much. Didn't question, didn't call the judge because I was just there to learn from him.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd done something else. I asked the same question. I was like, oh, how are you doing that? That sounds really good. That's a really good little technique. And he tells us. And for the 3rd time, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Again, like, again, I'm there to learn. I asked him again. And he goes, look, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm not going to tell you all my strats of how he's like, I'm not going to tell you all the strats of what I'm playing. He goes, and I was like, that makes perfect sense to me. I was like, I know you're here to win. I was like, could you write them down? and then just tell us at the end. You tell us at the end. That would be lovely.
You're like, Frodo, all right, then keep your secrets.
But like throughout the game, exactly. But throughout the game, I was just like, you know what? I was like, I'm going to make a mental note of what he's doing because he's obviously a really good player.
Yeah.
But I played my advantage. He had the Desolation squad, so he was basically popping off my Locust Heavy Destroyers, and I literally couldn't do anything.
Can't touch him.
But instead, what I'd done was my 2 Lich Guard blobs that I had. They were tying up his Black Templar units in the middle. So all I done was I flew my Catan just straight through the middle. I was ignored all my units, ignored the objectives, and I was going straight for his Desolators.
Yeah.
And I seen him, and he was like, huh. He was like, I'm just gonna move them back.
Yeah.
And I was like, mate, regardless, turn 3, turn 4, I'm
getting there.
I'm fucking them up because I'm sick of them. And I was told prior to the game, everyone was like, yeah, these guys clap. And to be fair, he did say at the end, he did say at the start, he goes, these Desolators are what everyone currently fears. Because, well, they're annoying. Yeah, indirect fire, hitting on freeze, I think. Oath of Moment, you'd be re-rolling all your attacks and all your wounds, so big blobs of them are incredible.
They can remove delete almost anything. They can delete almost anything.
100%.
We'll come on to that in a minute as well.
Exactly.
Before we leave the tournament, I do need to talk about one. It wasn't necessarily a clutch moment, it was a moment of drama. So
right.
There's a little bit of a build up to this, so bear with us slightly. So this is my last game. I'm playing a guy who was once the top Orc player in the world, ranked the top Orc player in the world, and was the top UK Orc player 3 games in a row. 3 years in a row, sorry, not game. Nice bloke, actually. He's an ITC judge now. He doesn't play that much. He just come to sort of support the organisers and enjoy a tournament.
Very nice.
But he's a very, very good player. But he said at the outset, he's like, there's not much point talking through a list because he said it goes, whatever you tell me goes in one ear and out the other. And I'm like,
I'm the
that's
same,
music
actually.
to my ears because that's exactly what I'm like.
100%.
So but I said, what one unit I will talk you through is the Lich Guard and how the Crypto Thralls work in there. Because for those of you that don't know, you can attach 2 Crypto Thralls to a unit, and the
Technomancer
and the Technomancer as well with an Overlord. But with the Technomancer you can attach the 2 Crypto Thralls. They have a 4-up Feel No Pain. So the idea behind that is once your opponent has rolled his wounds, you can allocate some of those or all of those wounds to the Crypto Thralls and then try and tank them on the 4-up Feel No Pain.
100%.
So I'd explained it before the game, explained it in the game, and he got quite irate at one point because he thought that I wasn't being clear with him about who I was tanking the wounds on. So I'd said to him, if I'm going to take them on the Crypto Thralls, I'll tell you.
It's hard.
Assuming that if I don't say I'm taking them on the Crypto Thralls, I'm taking them on the Lich Guard.
Yes.
Because if your opponent's trying to chip away, you might want to save your Crypto Thralls for some higher damage weapons that are coming in later. And which is what I did. He thought that once you'd started taking wounds on the Crypto Thralls, you had to keep taking them. So I'm like, no, what you do if one's got a wound left, the same as any other model you would.
Exactly.
If one of those Crypto Thralls dies, I don't have to then take the wounds on the other Crypto Thrall. I can choose.
Correct.
So he was a bit disgruntled about that, and then he starts attacking us with his next unit. And he looks at me before he rolls his dice. He's like, before I roll these dice, you need to tell me who you're taking these wounds on. I'm like, that's not how 40k works. I don't have to tell you before
I'm gonna roll my weighted dice.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna run to the toilet and go flush them. No way.
But before he hadn't even rolled to hit, so I'm like, that's not how it works. Like he's an orc player. You've got a knob in your unit. You don't have to tell me before I've rolled to hit.
Yeah.
If you're going to take those wounds on the knob, it's the same principle.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, okay. So I tanked some wounds onto some of the Cryptothrall in the end, and they both die.
Yeah.
And I've got 4. The Cryptothrall only has a 3-up save, so if there's AP on there, in this case it's -2, I was saving on 5-ups, and then you've got your 4-up Feel No Pain.
Really good.
And then once those have gone, I'm then rolling 4-up saves on the Lich Guard.
Yes.
And he's like, so I was 4 wounds left, roll 2 4s. I'm like, right, that's 2 wounds gone through, roll me Feel No Pain. He's like, no, they've got. Those 4s don't count. You've got a 5-up Feel No Pain. I'm like, are you sure about that? Because I'm rolling saves in. He's like, yeah. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm not going to argue anymore.
Sure.
I just took my model.
Yeah.
So we've got past that. It's a bit tense.
Sure.
On both sides. And then so he moves around the table to have a look and see where something is before he wants to shoot it.
Makes sense.
Leans on the table. The legs buckle. There's this clanging noise. No. The table goes like this, and everything slides off. So he has a full cup of tea and a pint of water at his end, so everything gets soaked.
Not the tea.
Yeah, these models everywhere.
Yeah,
and
terrain
everywhere. There is water everywhere. And there's like a second where there's silence across the whole
It was like
hall.
It was
and then
dead.
Everybody goes...
Ooh. Yep, it was like, when like you drop a plate at a restaurant.
Yes.
Everyone's like, ooh, starts clapping. But
so to be fair, and again, it's testament to the community that we've got in 40k, and particularly in the Northeast, is that immediately you were there. Yeah. There's guys I didn't know were there. There was loads of people rallied round. Are you guys okay? Are your models okay? Can we help? And
exactly.
Within literally like a matter of like less than a minute, people had just swept in, picked everything up. Guys arrived with mops and like mopping the floor and like sorting it all out. And within 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, we were back in a position to carry on playing.
Good. Yeah.
And the guy was like, do you want to just? It's like obviously because we'd been getting close to getting quite fractious over this Cryptothrall issue.
Yeah.
So he's like, do you know what? Do you just want to call this a draw? And I'm like, no. I said, I'm not here to win this game. I'm here to roll dice with you. I said, you're a very good player. It's already clear. We're in turn 2. It's already clear you're a good player. If you don't want to play with me because this has done your head in, we'll just
understandable as well. Though,
just whack it down as a win to you, 100 points to nothing or whatever you want. Said I don't mind. And he's like, actually, he said, look, we'll go and get a cup of tea. So when I had a cup of tea, had a chat, realised that we were both just being grumpy and tired because it was the last game of a 2-day tournament.
Yeah, it's like at that point we're like 10 hours in.
Yeah, and it kind of it changes his perspective
actually.
As well. So he reminded you when something like that happens that we're just playing toy soldiers.
It is, right? Yeah, it's a game.
Arguing over the rules isn't really what we're there for.
Yeah.
And so I was as guilty as him of that, I suppose. But it made us it realigned our perspectives back to where they should have been, and we actually went on and had a really fun experience for the rest of the game.
That's very good. Yeah.
So, and luckily, the only models that I lost were all of my Locust Heavy Destroyers snapped off their bases. But if any of you are Necron players and collect Locust Heavy Destroyers, they all do that at some point anyway. GW's design for those, they've put the pin that joins the model to the base is right at the back.
Yeah.
So if you get any amount of pressure on the front, they just snap off.
Just snap off. Now I've magnetized mine. Now that's good, but also bad as well though, because I actually had a few games when I was playing against the Chaos Knights player where I'd moved them forward, and what had happened is that their gun had just twisted because they twisted again since they're back heavy. Yeah. They twisted off, so like the model was facing a lot off their base. And he was like, "Oh, I can see your model." Well, no, it was actually the opposite. He says he couldn't see my model because of how it was positioned. And I was like, "You're absolutely right, mate." I was like, "It's just been magnetized, so it's been knocked and it's flew off the left. I'll keep the base at where it is, but I'll move them to where he should be." Right. Now that just meant that basically one of them was then visible. But I was fine with that because that's just the model was designed and positioned in this way, and he was simply just knocked at a later point.
Fair, yeah.
That's it. So, but again, they're a massive pain there. To glue up, but I'm glad that he didn't have much damage apart from the destroyers.
Ironically, because he was such a good player, he killed most of my stuff on that side of the table.
So it was most of his stuff. Anyways, a couple
of destroyers. I can live with. They need gluing after virtually every game I've played with them.
They do, yeah. Well, his is orcs as well, though, right? So I think I spoke to him just afterwards, and I made a crack little joke, being like, "Oh, well, look, they're orcs, right? They look more orky now,
yeah.
You know, they're all been destroyed. That's fine, just glue them together." And it's quite funny because as he was packing up at the end as well, he had like a little pile of all the bits that have broke, not in that game, just as time goes on. And he was saying, he goes, I just collect them. He goes, I just collect all, because they're all painted, so they're ready to rock. He just collects them, and he goes, whenever I'm building a new model, I might just add or attach some extra little sprues that have broken off as time went on. And
nice.
It just, again, makes it look more orky.
More orky, yeah.
But apart from that, I thought the event was actually a really good event.
It was incredibly well organised. The organisers did a great job.
Ran smooth.
Yeah.
You know, tables are set up in a really nice place as well. Yeah. Like when we played the last GT down Manchester, the tables were obviously really close to each other. So to get round the board, if you were dead centre of the massive long line of tables, you have to go around or just ask the opponent to either move the terrain slightly or just tell them where stuff's positioned.
You were cheek by jowl. There's no space in between the tables at the Warhammer Fest GT.
Yes, but this one all spaced out, which done wonders for my back, so I didn't have to lean over too much. It was nice, little casual kind of walk around. Terrain was really good as well. Quite dense terrain actually this time, wasn't it?
It was much better than Warhammer Fest. Certainly better than Warhammer Fest Day 1. That was bad terrain. Day 2 wasn't too bad at Warhammer Fest, but the terrain at the Northeast Open was really good.
Really good. Yeah.
Different configurations, but still dense enough to avoid any sort of feels bad for armies that weren't too shooty, or avoid those alpha strikes type thing.
Exactly.
Unless there's the meta. It doesn't lie. The top teams were Eldari, GSE, and
not even shocked.
Eldari again.
Not even shocked. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
So and the Eldari, it's the Wraith Knights because they can see almost anything on the table and shoot it.
Absolutely.
And that does cause a few problems.
Yes, 100%. Any armies that you disliked? Oh, sorry, Paul, I was going to say yes. The event itself, fantastic, wasn't it? Like, really well ran. Actually, saying that, have you paid your? Because I got a few cups of tea. I haven't paid for that yet.
I asked, I will ask because I used her PayPal.
Yes.
And no, she says she hasn't had a message yet.
She hasn't had a message. I might drop Ricky a message.
Yes.
Because I only got like 2 teas, so I'm only incredible by like £2. But if there's like 90 people, it's gonna be a lot of
Ricky,
cups of tea.
if you're watching, we're not trying to dodge you. We'll pay our bill.
Send us the bill. Send a bill down for us though. Let Dan pay for us. But yes, no, we'll Dan, you get that. So
yeah, Ricky and the guys from
Dyson Bolter, right?
Dyson Bolter.
They were lovely players.
Lovely guys.
Yeah.
We had a chat with a couple of them coming in on day 2.
We did. Yeah, it was quite nice of them.
It was interesting because they actually both had different interpretations of the same rule, didn't they?
Because I think I said one thing, you said another, and then. Funny enough, those Dyson Bolter guys, the judges of the tournament, if anyone doesn't know, they walked past, and then we were like, "Oh, fuck it, we'll just ask these guys."
Yeah.
They're the judges. Let's just ask. And then again, them two had different thoughts on the matter, didn't they?
So the ruling was that we were discussing was some models like the Incarn and the Eldari, and obviously Catan, as we've just been talking about, they halve incoming damage.
Yes.
The question was, with devastating wounds, they cause mortal wounds. You still halve the damage on that.
Yes.
And the answer, as it turns out, is yes.
Because you halve the damage characteristics before the mortal wounds.
Before the mortal wounds are applied.
So the mortal wounds, the way that works, is that they are applied. If you've got 6 mortal wounds, well, that's not one save of a 6. If you're doing like feel no pain, that's 6 individual bits of damage.
Yes.
But the reason why the Catan halves damage for is because you're halving the damage characteristics of that weapon profile. Yes. So that weapon profile is 6 mortal wounds, but the mortal wounds haven't applied yet. They apply at the end once all of our rolls are finished. So you'll go down to 3, and you'll roll your 3 invent saves. If you've got the not invent saves,
feel no pain.
If you have them, like we do on the Transcendent Catan. But glad that clarified, because I actually one of my games I had against the Knights player, he contested that. And it was quite funny because when he contested it, I started laughing. And I was like, "Oh mate," I was like, "You'll not believe us."
Yeah.
I was like, "You'll not believe us." But I did check this on the way in out of this random situation, and he still contested it. He got the rulebook out and checked, and I was like, "Hey, that's fine. Happy if you get the rulebook out. I understand the way you're the way you're reading it." I was like, "It is confusing." I was like, "Tell you what, let's just get a judge." Let him settle the matter, because at the end of the day, that's what they're there for. So I called the judge over, and they had a little chat about it for about 5-10 minutes, and he still disagreed, but he was like, "Look, I disagree with what you're saying, but let's move on." Yeah. And I was like, "Good." I was like, "Happy days." And then there was quite a thing about, I think it was Kieran from Dyson Bolter, really nice of him. He says, "I'll tell you what," he goes, "I understand you disagree. I think I'm right. Tell you what, I'll go ask some of the top players and the other judge, and then I'll just come back to you. I'll let you crack on. So we continued playing, and he went to go ask a few Dyson Bolter guy, the other Dyson Bolter guy, and a few of the top table players, just to be like, look, this is the rule. What's your interpretation of it? And he came out and said, oh, look, yeah, all the top players agreed with what I'm saying. So I am going to rule it this way for now. If you find any more information, let me know later on, which was just quite nice, because he didn't have to go away and ask other players.
Yeah.
He was confident that he was right, but it was good for him just to kind of get
that
that more reassurance really for the player, to make sure that I or him wasn't being cheated.
It's we're new into an edition, but it also mitigates that conflict as well if the player feels like they're being listened to still.
Yes.
But it actually, I know for a fact that it is that way, because my opponent in game 2, the Scottish guy Mark,
but he's one of the top players, isn't he?
He is a very, very good player, and he had the Incarn. So when I hit him with the Scorpex, he's like, well, I did some devastating wounds, and he's like, well, it halves damage.
Yes.
I'm like, are you sure about that? Because it's mortal wounds. And he showed me on it the reason it's in the rule book, rules as written, it can be interpreted that you don't halve damage.
Exactly.
But they've addressed it in rules commentary or an FAQ.
Good.
So it does exist there on paper. That is the right way to play
in the book, which sucks. The thing about obviously having the book up there, it sucks because it's like, oh well, the rules in the book are this, but it's like, oh well, no, actually, if you look on the commentary, it's now changed, which obviously.
And we're already into that situation that we were in 9th, where you need
stuff's out of date. Yeah. You need like 6 books before you play.
Different bits of paper. Yeah, exactly. So the information is all in different places, and hopefully GW will address that. Really, I don't want to see just an FAQ or an errata. I would like to see the actual rules updated, so that it's all in one place.
And which, again, with the app itself, I really like using the app. Not so much for the army builders, again, really good, as we discussed before, but actually searching for the rules and the commentary on the app is really good.
They've done a very good job of that. Yeah.
And it's so good because it's like you and me, if we're both playing, we can both search. Like if you were during your turn and you were like, oh, I'm not too sure if I can do that, I would sit there and be like, oh, let me just double check for you and I'll get the rule up for you. I'd get the rule and be like, oh, found it, there you go, mate. You have a little read, see what you want to do next, and then it just kind of let him move forward, and
it speeds the game up a little bit.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're there to play a game, we're there to have fun. So we're there to roll dice. I'm there to roll dice specifically. So I was very happy that I could get the information for him to make him enjoy it more, and obviously speed up the game.
You're there to roll dice, and in the case of flayed ones, buckets of dice by the sound of things.
For sure.
It's like playing orcs.
Yeah.
So in terms of feedback or what your takeaways were from playing some of those opponents, mine was, in terms of Eldari, was they are very obviously in need of a nerf. In terms of Space Marines,
just need to be a better player, mate. That's all.
I mean, I think their ability to automatically do devastating wounds is an issue.
That's hard. Yeah.
My view on that rule is that if you're going to use for Sisters Miracle dice or Fate dice for Eldar, that you shouldn't be able to make a 6 into a critical wound.
Yes.
To avoid that, and then that would then force those players to have to either choose to wound you, or to gamble and try and roll a 6 to do devastating wounds.
Yeah,
I think that would balance it a bit.
I mean, I didn't play any Eldar, so I didn't actually get to see how hard they are to
they have a unit called Nightbringer, which is a vehicle, I think, and it just sits at the back objective, and guess what? It's got indirect fire.
Oh, funny enough.
For Necrons, it's kryptonite because it's indirect fire. If it hits you,
it's like -2, isn't it?
-2 movements. So I took my...
What's it, like 5s to freeze now?
Yeah.
I'm not getting anywhere.
It took my Warrior Blob 3 turns to get onto the board objective because he just
kept on shooting them.
I'm going to pin you.
Yeah. What a dick.
the Incarn as well, that is a ridiculous rule. So the Incarn... when any unit on the table is destroyed, the Incarn can immediately teleport to where that unit was.
Oh,
so in my case, when he rolled his 3 consecutive 6s, his Wraith Knight one-shotted my Nightbringer, which was basically in my back lines. It hadn't really. He was just coming out from behind a building in my deployment zone.
Yeah.
Then the Incarn goes, I'll just teleport into there.
No
and then
way.
I'll run right the way through all the stuff in your back line.
Yeah, what can you do?
Yeah, so
it is your Nightbringer as well, so you maybe shouldn't have taken your Nightbringer.
Yeah,
but
it is my own fault. Taking the Nightbringer is my own fault, but I will make him work.
For a failure yourself, mate.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's some jank there that feels quite strong.
Yeah.
So I do think that's going to come out in the wash. They've obviously gave Eldar a slight nerf in terms of changing the fate dice, but the results don't lie. Not just the Northeast Open, but elsewhere, they're still doing very, very well.
They do. They are. They really are. Oh, I think they were like win top 10. There was like, what, 4 of them? Maybe 5 of them?
Yeah, I think
so pretty good. All high scoring as well.
There was the GSC Gene Stealer Cult player came second, like in an Eldari sandwich in the top 3.
It was Eldar first, Gene Stealer Cult second, Eldari again third. What was 4th and 5th?
I can't remember.
I think I didn't see very many Custodies actually.
No.
Now that we mention it.
No, there was some Custodies players there because our friend Jared played one and beat him, but I don't think there was a lot of the top players were taking Custodies.
Yeah, there was a Necron player in top 10 as well.
Yes, and a Tau player in the top 10, which I would really like to understand more about that.
I want to go check his list, but I don't know, not subscribed actually. But
it'd be interesting to see how they achieve that with Tau, because that's pretty impressive. But I like to see that. I like to see players who refuse to bow to the meta and will just take, we take Necrons because that's our faction.
It's what we've been playing for ages now, isn't it? Yeah.
And at the moment they're doing quite well, which is fair enough.
I think they're sitting on like 47% now. I think.
Yeah, they're just under 50, but they're winning a few events as well, or getting podium places at events, so which is nice to see.
But have you seen the list that they're rocking though? They're just Lich Guard and 3 Doomsday Orcs.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, man. Like, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I love the Doomsday model. I think it's just up there behind you there. Absolutely love the model. I think it's great. It's such a pain to freaking build. Pain. I'm like, no, man, I'm not getting any more. Like, I've got 2 Ghost Orcs and I'm done with that model. Like, it's a cool ass looking model, but I will not build any point anymore.
Yeah,
I'm sick of it. So I'm gonna run Lich Guard, Transcendent Catan.
Yes.
Probably not any warriors. More Logos Heavy Destroyers. My 1 Doomsday Arc, and still deciding on the last bit. Really, I don't know if I want. I feel like if I go another Lich Guard unit, that's just meta chasing, and I don't want to be that. So
3 would make it impossible to play around the blobs because
because I'm just on the board and I'm just there. So I'm thinking 2 Lich Guard blobs, because again I just like those. I really like the look of them, and probably more flayed ones. I just love them. I think they're great. Having I'm thinking we're getting either 3 squads of 5. So I've got 2 squads of 5 at the minute. Done me wonders. So maybe 3 squads, just again to be that awkwardness to kind of get aroround the board. I think. Are you going to make me more changes to your list?
So I played a game this week against Chaos Space Marines against our friend Lewis.
Oh, yes.
I ended up pretty much tabling him in the end. It was
poor Lewis.
It was.
Sorry if you're watching, mate.
Yes, and it wasn't. I don't want to like.
He's a tournament player, you know.
Well,
that's why,
I did come in the top 60.
Top 60.
At the Northeast Open, but it was one of those games where he did the right things in a lot of cases. He put his most of his stronger units into my Lich Guard, and the Lich Guard just soak it all up.
They do. I love how everyone loves to challenge the Lich Guard. Like we sit them down before the game. We're like, look, this squad, you're not going to kill them. Let's just be real. You're not. Obviously, we bring the Resorb, so in our command phase and their command phase, we're Resin plus the Reanimator. That's D3 plus 3 plus the Strat. That's another D3 plus 3, D3 plus 3, D3 plus 3 plus 1. Yeah, because we're being led by HQ. So it's like, look, you're not going to get through. Just avoid it. But everyone loves to just get into them and be like, I'm going to kill them. I'm going to be the player to take them, and then they don't. They bounce and they're like, okay, I'm stuck here now.
That's it. Unless you've got like some jank like the Marines have got, like fallback and charge with the tactical.
Exactly.
Then you are stuck.
You are stuck.
Combat with
you are stuck. Yes.
And then they'll just grind you down over a few turns.
Exactly.
I think over the course of the game, one of the squads killed a Baden and some Marines, and then polished off a Land Raider.
Yeah.
And the other squad just tanked it, charged from his possessed, and just slowly ground them down as well. Yeah. And they're a good unit. But I like Chaos Space Marines. A lot of flavour, but they went down a lot quicker. I think he had 4 Terminators left on the board at the end of the game, pretty much.
That's crazy.
Which brings us to our next point in terms which I know we have differing views on this,
right?
But is 10th edition really less lethal than 9th?
You see, I think it is less lethal because my list isn't lethal. So I'm not killing a lot. So by the end of it, the other player is kind of like dwindling down. Like I think most games I've played, they've got at least 50% of their army still up. So my army doesn't kill a lot, but my army's got the sustain. So I don't think I've lost. I don't think the games that I won and lost and drew against, I think I still had at least 65%+ of my army still remaining on the field. I just couldn't get in the right positions to score them points.
Yes.
Now again, I didn't play any Eldari, so my opinion might be slightly swayed here. But mine were the first one was Tau, obviously a bit low on the meta at the minute, so probably hard to compare against. But the next one was Black Templars with the Desolation Marines, and he had about 40% left, and I had about 65 again percent of my army left. And again, he won by 1 point only because he stopped me really well from getting to certain points, and he got really good secondaries and played really well to get my backfield objective. So that was really good by him. Third player was the Chaos Knights.
Yes.
Again, it was a bit of a shame because I think he messed up, not messed up, but he rolled very poorly against some of the saves that he had to make against my Doomsday Ark and my Logos Destroyers. So I think his was a bit swayed, but that's how the dice is. It is a dice game.
It is a dice game, but on those high damage weapons, it is very swingy. Like if your opponent's like, when I played the Orc guy, I had a 4-up Invuln and a 4-up Feel No Pain on one of his characters, and he just made all of his saves basically. Yeah. Whereas if the opposite happens, like the Knights player, then they're going to go down fairly quick. Exactly.
And then the other 2 Green Knights players that I played, again, really good players, really fun players. Didn't have a lot of units to kill me off, but he didn't need a lot of units to basically get your points. So for me, in my experience in 10 so far, is that it's not lethal because my army is still there. Now, that might be the way I'm building my army, but AP's dropped, toughness is up, damage is down. So personally, for me, I think it is.
So I'll tell you, there's two reasons why I disagree with you. And the first one is
you're wrong.
Yeah, the first one is you're wrong. And the second one is you're definitely wrong.
The second one is you didn't play Eldar.
Yeah.
So that's probably why.
Well, I mean, the meta doesn't lie, and if you look at the factions that are at the top of the meta, let's start with Eldari. Eldari, as Stu Black mentioned in his Meta Watch, they are very they have great damage output and still have high movement, so they're good at scoring.
Yes.
If we look at Custodes, they have very good damage output and are very hard to shift.
True.
If we look at Gene Stealer Cults, they've got great damage output and
keep on coming back.
Just keep on coming back. So if we're looking at the top of the meta, Space Marines even, I know they're not top of the meta, but great. Again, the reason that they're scoring reasonably well is because they've got great damage output from those Desolation Marines in particular.
Plus the Oath of the Moment.
Yeah, an Oath of the Moment, yes. So there's Oath of the Moment in the games I've played against Space Marines, either tournaments or practice games, or whatever, friendly games, pretty much whatever they point at, they can delete. Gone. Yeah. Apart from possibly Lich Guard if you roll well.
What about your other games? Because you mentioned Eldar a bit though. So is your view swayed completely by the Eldar, or what do you think about take Eldar out of the equation? What is 10 still lethal?
So if we look at, let's say, look at the meta side of it as point one, like all of the top armies have point scoring ability, but are also the most lethal armies in the game at the moment.
Yeah.
So that can't be a coincidence as far as I'm concerned. You obviously need to be able to score points.
Yeah.
Some of the mid-table factions can score points, but they don't have the lethality, and that's why they're not at the top. In terms of personal experience, it's not just what's tabled me. So I struggled against Eldar and Thousand Suns. Thousand Suns can put out a lot of damage as well.
Yeah, they can actually, surprisingly. Yeah.
And again, they're not that far behind. They're probably top 5, top 6 in the meta.
Yeah.
So they've got some movement shenanigans and put out a lot of damage.
I think that's it. I think just like looking at it as a whole, you might think, they're overpowered X, Y, Z. It's not. It's because they're tailoring and doing their stratagems at the right time to get the best damage output.
Yes.
So I think you can make your psychic weapons. If you make your Thousand Suns weapons psychic weapons, which do extra damage,
yes.
So it's like they have to do it at the right time. So don't think you look at certain things and be like, oh, that army's ridiculous. So it is nerfed. It's like no, they're using it at the right place and time.
Gene Stealer Cults and Thousand Suns are both bigger brain armies, like you've just said, where you have to know how to use them to maximize it or optimize your damage output. But in the hands of a good player, they can put out a lot of damage, and that's why they're higher up, in my opinion, higher up in the series, because the factions that are doing well have that combination of lethality and ability to score points.
Yeah.
In terms of the games I've played, I've not been on the end of that many tablings, but I've actually tabled. I think I tabled 2 opponents. The 2 opponents that I played at the GT, I tabled the first guy. I think had a librarian left, so not quite tabled him. And we talked through the last turns against Daniel, but he had 1 unit left, and probably that we're in combat with a Lich Guard probably would have gone down.
Yeah, so he couldn't do anything regardless with them.
I've in the run up to that tournament, I tabled a World Eaters player.
Nice, yeah.
Sorry, Alex, and in in the
I'm not
aftermath
sorry,
of
Alex.
that, I played Lewis's Chaos Space Marines, and I said I didn't quite table him, about four Terminators left, and that was it. So in terms of lethality for me as a Necron player, how much damage I can do, or how often I'm reducing armies down to either nothing or a very small amount, that seems to have increased in 10th.
Yeah.
Now there's obviously other factors that could be in play there. Like it could just be that I've actually learned how to play the game properly for a little bit.
That's true.
Or it could be
you're getting better.
It could be our contrasting play styles. Like you very much are much more strategic and tactical player, and you play for points, whereas I'm still in that phase where I just like to go, let's go kill everything.
I need to go from A to B. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's so fair. That's fair.
Different contrasting play styles as well. That might be why. But it's interesting that you're having a very different experience to me. So time will tell which one is correct, or maybe it falls somewhere in the middle.
It does, yeah. I think as the band's data sets come out and as we get more codexes out, I think we will see a shift on how our position is on it, because they could go down the route of 9th where it's like buff. Obviously, we all hope they don't.
Yeah.
And I hope they focus primarily on point changes as opposed to character and ability changes, only because then that means like the indexes and the codexes that we get, they're not redundant. Basically,
yes.
You know what I mean? So like, if you just change the points, it then just means that my codex that I bought 2 weeks ago is still in date.
It's still valid. Yeah.
So
my index cards are still valid. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if they change the points, the points in the book might be different, but at least it's only points that you can really get on like an app or the online. So
yeah, and there's codex creep is going to be a thing, I think. But obviously also we should get different flavors that you can play within your faction. So there'll be 2 or 3 ways a codex enables you to play.
Well, one thing that I thought was really good that me and Dan were talking about during our game was I really like the idea of, because we had like your own secondaries that you could do.
Yes.
I still love that idea. I love having like specific Necron stuff that I can do that's relevant to my army or relevant to my lore.
Yeah.
One thing I thought would be really good that they could do is they could obviously create, like when you get your codex, it comes with 6 cards. So 3 defenders and 3 attackers cards.
Right.
Now in those cards, they're your Necron specific cards, but obviously the artwork will match exactly what it's like on the cards from the thing. So what you would do is when you go to play your game, you shuffle those cards into your stack of secondary missions, so you don't know when they're going to get pulled.
Yes.
So that when you're just doing your game, you might then get your secondary card, which I think would be quite nice because it adds that extra bit of flavour. It'd be like, oh, will I get my Necron secondary card? Oh, I did.
Yeah,
Let's try and do that one. Whereas obviously in the past, like the Orcs in 9th, they could pick, or even actually Necrons for us as well. For Necrons, we just had to basically hold 3 objectives and we'd be scoring all 3 points. In
Nephilim, so it was quite passive, which was not really fair on anybody else.
Exactly. I mean, we didn't have to do anything. We just had to sit there.
You just had to reach the mid-board objective and stand there.
But also made it quite boring for us as well, though, because we were like, well, I'm there now. I don't need to move off. I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to sit here and kind of gets quite boring. So I think it'd be good to mix those cards into what they've got so far, just to make it more randomness, because I think the majority of players, all of the players I played against, including myself, we all picked tactical.
I only talked to one guy who was a Grey Knights player from Scotland who was playing fixed objectives because he was Grey Knights with those teleport shenanigans. He just took engage on all fronts and behind enemy lines.
Probably makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he said he hadn't even played a game of 10th before he turned up, so he's just like, I just need to keep this really simple. I'm just so that's why I picked them. But it ended up working out really well for him. And I think we will, as we're still absolutely at the beginning of this edition, people are still working out, particularly at the tournament scene, if there is a way to gain an advantage, somebody will work it out. So at the moment, I think people are just enjoying the tactical missions, the randomness of the deck.
Just learning the game
as it evolves, I think we will see more and more tournament players
honed in,
building a list specifically around 2 secondaries. Yeah,
I think that's the main.
Good. But yes, to summarise, you're definitely wrong about lethality.
Time
will tell.
Time will tell. Well, I think you're wrong, Dan. I think we should settle this with a game of WorHammer.
Yes.
Because we actually haven't played in a long time.
We haven't, and that's because you absolutely rinsed me last time, and I'm still sore about it.
Mate, I've got a frame on the wall. The points, I think it was like 100.
I've actually never beaten you. I worked out the other day. Not that this always dwells on my mind or anything. But I've never ever beaten you in a game of.
Well, I did come 46 in this tournament.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I'm kind of up there. For the points that I scored, if I won that other game, I would have placed in the top 20 of that tournament.
No way.
Yeah. So that one draw I had could have bumped me up a lot, but regardless, it was still a fun day game.
So I think that's us pretty much.
Perfect.
Yes, I think that'll wrap things up for this one.
Amazing.
Let us know in the comments what you think about lethality, because I'd be really interested to get your feedback as well. Are you finding games are more lethal, or do you agree with Jack? Are they less lethal?
Am I right or Dan's right? Because I know I'm right, but let's just see the comments in there and see that I'm right. So that would be nice to see.
So thank you again for tuning in. If you've stayed this long, listening to us have a chat on. We hope you're enjoying this, and we'd like to do more. But please like and subscribe, and share it if you're enjoying it. Get some more people involved in the community.
Definitely.
And drop us some comments so we can chat in the comments with you as well.
I think again, just thanks so much for the support you've given us so far.
Yeah.
The first podcast came out. I think we've got over 100 views. So I'm very happy with that.
Yeah,
great.
in less than a week, we had over 100 views, which was many more than. I mean, obviously we're far behind like the great podcast, but everyone has to start somewhere.
Hey, start somewhere, mate. And I'm happy with how it's going. So thanks again for watching. It's been great. Or if you're listening in on the streaming platforms, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.